This is a song for my friends Jaret and Gary. They started a podcast and said a theme was necessary. They're just a couple of guys in a band that you know. Some rockstar dads who started a show. So here's the next episode.
Welcome to the Rockstar Dad Show, everybody. Man, my name is Jaret. Gary is here. We're from your favorite band, Bowling for Soup. And man, we got a great show today. Later on in the program, from Simple Plan, Jeff Stinko is here, guitar player extraordinaire. We just announced last week that we will be touring along with Simple Plan 303 and Lolo for the Simple Plan Bigger Than It Looks tour, celebrating 25 years of their band and 31 years of ours. So, man, I could not be more excited, dude. It's going to be freaking great.
It's going to be awesome. I'm excited. And it's just so weird hearing like 20 years of this and 30 years of that. Like, you know, like, not to hit on the I'm just a kid theme of the Simple Plan, but like, don't you still mentally just feel like you're freaking, 23 years old?
Yeah, I do. Actually, I'm going to be honest. I Googled Jeff to get the spelling of his, I thought I knew it, but I just wanted to make sure that I had the spelling of his name. And I didn't realize that he's 49. So like Simple Plan's going to have a 50-year-old in the band.
Yeah.
And so they've all got to be pushing it,
Yeah. I mean, I didn't realize Jeff was older than me, but I thought they were all like a couple of years younger than me. So yeah, they're all like in their 40s.
Yeah. In their 40s. Well, I'm excited for them to have a 50-year-old because then both of us have one.
Yeah.
Cause I'm on an island by myself now, Gary. It was always nice to have Chris because he was older than me. So I could just be like, oh yeah, Chris is the oldest. Then I don't even have to say my age,
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was the kid. I was the new guy for 20 something fucking years. And I was the youngest guy on tour and this and that. And then we got this whippersnapper Rob, and I'm no longer the young guy or the new guy. What the hell?
The funniest thing is that you're the new guy. You've been in the band 26 years or whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's fucking crazy.
It was weird. Like, 18 years into it and people are like, oh, the new guy. I'm like, what the fuck are we talking about
what
here?
What is happening here? Yeah, there was a thing going around about like bands that are touring with original members, right? And stuff like that. And, and people were trying to get all technical and shit. Somebody was like, Poison, and somebody, well, CC is an original member. And it's like, CC's a fucking original member of like when people gave a shit about Poison, And so that's sort of the way that I feel about you. It's like, it's not like we did anything before you got in the band, like we got our record deal after you got in the band. We recorded the song that got us the record deal when you got in the band.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
I split plenty of time in the van. Yeah.
You did your time.
Yeah.
You did your fucking time. You did 5 years.
Yeah. And that's like the CC thing. It's like, he was there for all the shit.
Yeah.
Anything that you can think of, he was there.
Yeah. I think, at that point you're just being it. I think it should be a measure of like how, because if they were just this LA band and all fucking painting houses and shit on the weekends, like, yeah. And then all of a sudden then they were doing it full time or whatever. Like that's the original band. You know what I mean? Like once you're out there doing it, but, man, I got to tell you, so I was thinking about this, like how much, seriously, like no shit, how many hours a night do you sleep, you think?
Man, I not enough. I'll tell you that. I'm going to guess on average 6.
Okay. So I that's what I thought you were going to say. And, I'm wondering so here's the deal. So my shrink told me, like, I was just like, yeah, I'll like get up with my kid and then I'll go lay back down. And like, sometimes, like I'll get out of bed at like 10. And he's like, so then how long are you in bed? And I'm like, I don't know. Like I go to bed, at, like 11:30 or 12. And then he goes, no, you can't be in bed more than 9 hours ever, even if you're not sleeping and blah, blah, blah. And so anyway, I've just sort of been kind of like thinking about that or whatever. And so I'm wondering if I've been sleeping too much. Like, seriously, I'm wondering if I got myself used to like 10 hours of sleep. And and that might be while I'm because the last few times I've gotten up in the morning with Everett, I get up at 6:20. I'm in bed around midnight, so it's around 6.5 hours of sleep if I go right to sleep. And then I just stay up, and I feel like I don't crash in the middle of the day.
Yeah, so there's something to be said about getting the right amount of sleep. And for me, like that means having to go to sleep earlier, right? Because you have to wake up at the same time to get the kids up for school and yada yada. But my problem is I doom scroll or this or that, or But whenever you actually do get the right amount of sleep, you wake up early or on time or easy before the alarm goes off, and you wake up refreshed. If you actually wake up because the alarm goes off and you haven't had the right amount of sleep, that's when you're groggy and feel like shit. I saw someone talking about this the other day about how we're the only species that fucks up our sleep by alarm clocks and waking it up. Like every other species just sleeps when they want till they're not tired anymore and they get up. And we go, we're going to go get, whether it's 6 or 8 or 10 hours all at once. You don't go get that hour and a half or 2 hours or 30 minutes in the middle of the day. But think of any other animal in the world. They'll take a nap. They'll sleep whenever. They wake up when they're not tired anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very true. Yeah, we fuck up everything though. Like we made M&Ms. You know what I mean? Like it's not like that's nature.
Sure. I mean, that may go back into part of the problem though, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I thought you were going somewhere completely different. I thought you were going some reading on your, like, that cool freaking mattress topper thing you had that you've been telling me about forever. And I'm so excited to look into, but I just found out our mattress is too deep. I can't get it.
Really? You can't get the newest one? Check again, because this fucking thing definitely swallows ours. And what, do you got a pillow topper on there?
It's not necessarily a pillow top, but our mattress is like 18 inches deep. And I think the thing says it's only for like 10 to 13 inch mattresses or something.
Okay. I don't know. I'll measure ours, but
right.
You got to fucking get it. No, but I did get it. Actually, it's interesting. I did get a good sleep score on that thing with only 6.5 hours of sleep. I did get and I got into restful sleep and got into deep sleep a good amount of time and all of that stuff. And I don't know, I'm just thinking about trying to curb it and just suffering through and just being like, all right, I'm going to get, 7 hours and then I'm getting out of bed. Because really where I landed when my shrink said it was, I was just like, okay, fuck it, 9, like I'm going to do the max of what he said. And then so I, go back to bed for a couple of hours after Everett goes to school. And then I wake up and I'm just fucking tired as shit. Because you do that thing where, we talk about this all the time on tour. If you get up and pee at 7:30 in the morning and you go back to sleep, you fall asleep hard.
Yeah.
And then you wake up and you're like, what just happened?
Yeah. I don't know, man. Give it a shot. I'll tell you, like a few years ago, I was doing I had like a morning routine, right? I'd wake up before it was time to take Tyler to school, and I'd have like an hour and a half, 2 hours to myself in the morning. So I'd wake up, and there's a whole process to doing that, right? But like, go brush your teeth, because that kind of makes you do something. It has a goal, and it gets you out of your like kind of wandering, if you will,
Sure.
But it's like after doing something like that, it's okay. I'd pour coffee, I'd read a book, I'd go for a walk. Like I'd have some kind of activity in the morning for like 20-30 minutes, and that just like would wake up my mind. And then after that, I got to my to-do list of whatever actual things I was going to get done.
Mm-hmm.
And it was freaking awesome, because by, I don't know, 8-9 a.m., like I already had the most pressing, the most important, the must-do items already off my list. But at the same time, like having those things done in the morning, I was awake. So now all of a sudden I'm awake, got the must-dos out of the way. I feel good. It's like, okay, well, I'm ready to do a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah. Well, that was another point. Another part of the thing was that, when I do get up really early and stay up early, I'm always like, because I used to, that was the way that I was, I don't know, pre-pandemic, I guess, where, it's like once I got up, I was up and I was super productive. And like by noon, it was like, of course I used to nap, and I'm trying not to nap anymore, but Anyway, yeah, I mean, yeah, that was back when you like were. I always thought that was really cool. Like you had 20 minutes of reading, and you had 10 minutes of meditation and all that. I really do want to try that actually. Of like, but you're right. Like if when I get up, I think I'm going to be really really tired, and if I get up, get dressed, make him breakfast, poop, take the trash cans down to the curb, then you're just like you have to make a decision to go back to bed. Or you're just like, fuck it, I'll stay up. And, I think I'm going to start turning that corner and just being like, fuck it, I'm going to stay up.
Yeah. Yeah. Get a few things like actively done. Like you said, take out the trash. That's going outside, like changing scenery, whatever. It just changes your brain patterns, I think.
Maybe I'll start doing that thing where I walk out my front door and put my feet in the grass.
Yeah.
Say that's a big thing.
Yeah.
If you go out there and just,
I've thought I was going to do this for the past 6 months, but like instead of having my morning coffee in the house, like I actually go outside and sit in my patio chairs and like have sun and like same thing, feet in the grass and have my coffee there. And I've told myself for 6 months I'm going to do that, and I haven't done it.
Well,
Not once.
It's been cold as shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, that's it too, right? You do the morning coffee. Now that might be another thing. I did have a coffee today. I feel pretty fucking good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess that coffee works. We met Simple Plan back in 2002. A band that we had actually already heard of and knew because they had worked with the same video directors that had done the Bitch song. And then we did Girl the Bad Guys Want. And so we knew who they were, and they had a song, and I think that maybe The New Guy, and I don't know, we had something in common, but they came down, toured with us. We've been great friends ever since, and have spent quite a bit of time together on the road, at shows, Warped Tours, radio shows, just all of that, and we just think the world of these guys. Coming up in the show, actually after this first break, is going to be Jeff Stinko, the guitar player. So this is the fourth and final member of Simple Plan to be on the show. And we're going to talk about the fact that we're doing a tour together in late summer. Simple Plan celebrating 25 years. Bowling for Soup joining them, 303 and Lolo for the Bigger Than It Looks tour. You can get tickets right now on any of the band's websites or wherever you get those tickets. And just couldn't be more excited to spend the end of our summer with those guys and to help them celebrate that big milestone. And we'll also be seeing them at Warped Tour. So going to be a fun, Simple Plan kind of year, you guys. Coming up is Jeff Stinko from the band Simple Plan. But first, listen to this. Don't forget, this is the Rockstar Dad Show. Welcome back to the Rockstar Dad Show. Don't forget, we are on every Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern on Adobe Radio. And then also, guys, don't forget the Adobe app. It's free. You just go get it. And then you can listen to our show, and you can listen to lots of other shows that are equally as entertaining. I don't agree with that. I'm supposed to say it. But anyway, Gary, I'm so excited about this because we have now completes the circle of life. This is it.
Yeah.
We have now had, after this episode, we have had all four members of Simple Plan on the Rockstar Dad Show. Jeff Stinko is here with us. How are you, brother?
What's up? Happy to see you guys.
Happy to see you too, man. Gosh, it's crazy because I know it's funny how we all stay in touch with different members of each band, right? So I know you and Rob chat a lot. Me and Chuck probably the most because we're the business guys,
Yeah.
And that makes the most sense. But we don't get to talk to you enough, Jeff.
I agree, and we decided, Rob and I, that we're going to put some things in place during the tour that we're doing together this summer. Yeah. So we make things a little more sophisticated for all of us. Okay. We'll talk about that when you're ready.
The first thing that when I think about you guys, of course, we've known each other since 2002. Yeah. We toured together in Texas first, and then went over to the UK, and then we did Warped Tour together, and then another Warped Tour, and we've played 1,000 radio shows together. So definitely we would we always said you guys were like our little brothers, like our little Canadian brothers. And but you know, when we first met you guys, I'm curious about this because we've always talked about it. You was English, were you still kind of like learning English at that time, you and Sebastian? Am I right in that?
Oh, I'm still learning English now. That's the thing, right? That's why I was so nervous about doing this. I'm like, I called Sebastian up this morning. I'm like, dude, these guys are fast and witty. Like, I just don't, I'm not as good in English as they are. How are we gonna do this? So they're cool. You've got this. Yeah, I mean, we were like, we spoke English because, you know, where we're from in Montreal is sort of very bilingual. But the reality is, you know, our mothers were French Canadians. So they taught us, you know, to speak properly and be, you know, well-mannered as Frenchmen. But yeah, you know, when we got on the road, we understood, you know, that that we needed to learn some lingo from America. And kind of some Texas lingo we learned with you guys quite quickly.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, it was interesting learning it as we were going.
Yeah, you definitely. I mean, it was such an interesting thing because I just remember, especially Sebastian was so quiet back then, you know,
Yeah,
and
because he didn't understand anything you were saying.
anything we were saying.
Sometimes when they were talking, they'd stop and then like talk in French to each other and then talk back to us like, oh, we had to figure out how to say this to you.
Yeah.
It's true. It was a thing. Yeah. Our first producer, like, he was going insane when we were making the first record because I would say that 80% of the interactions we were having amongst each other were in French.
Right.
So we were talking shit. He was like the common enemy for, you know, for all of us. And we were talking shit about him, you know, in French right to his face. So I don't know. It was very interesting.
Yeah. Well, and Pierre is perfectly bilingual. So it's right. I mean, it's like it's one of those things where you get to talking to him and you just assume the rest of the guys, but that was just a big surprise for us whenever, you know, we started, and then it all started to make sense. By the time we all got to be friends, it was like, okay, we just need to slow down a little bit, you know, and of course, obviously, you know,
and drink a few more beers.
It did indeed. Now, are you still living up in Montreal?
Yeah, I live in Montreal.
Yeah, I thought so. Now, let's talk about family. Now, I believe you have 2 daughters. Am I right?
And a boy.
And a boy.
I've got 3 kids. It's pure insanity in this household. It's just like, God. Yeah, no, it's definitely. So my son's 14. The girls are 16 and 18.
Okay.
God, I live in their house, really.
Right.
And, you know, I have to excuse myself for being there. I have to cook. I have to clean up behind them. Yeah. It's such an interesting thing coming back from tour. It's just like, okay, humility sets in. Let's just, you know, let's just be a dad for a moment. I like it. I like the 2 sides.
But that's just it. So you've been a dad a long time, you know, similar to me. And you know, because I have a 22-year-old and a 19-year-old and now a 12-year-old, obviously. But you know, so that's a lot of traveling while the kids are growing up. And especially you guys hit it hard, man. I mean, you know, like we used to think in the bar days, we were the busiest band in the world. And then once we got into a situation where kids started being involved and, you know, that kind of thing, we really laid off of it. So, I mean, you really have to make that time count when you're at home, I guess.
I mean, I'm full time. Like, so it's interesting because Rob and I discuss it quite a bit, you know, like we're always talking about, like, I ask him, like, how do you guys do it? Like, because we have similar careers right now where, you know, you guys are huge in the UK and you work hard there and you grind hard, but you kind of do it, you know, stretches. You do like, I don't know, like you do a month at a time, which is huge, you know, like you get back home and the kids have gone through so much during that month, you know, and that's been very, very hard for me. It's coming back to their reality. Right. Shit has happened. They've got stuff going on. And then suddenly you're like, hey, you want to spend time with me? You're like, no. I got my friends to hang out with, you know?
Yeah. Jeff, we call that re-entry. And
re-entry.
I know you're divorced, right? From their mother? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So same. And but in every relationship, you know, so I'm remarried to my youngest son's mom. He's ours. But, you know, but re-entry is so interesting. From a couple standpoint, But you bring up a good point. We don't really talk about that a whole lot on the show, Gary, about reentry with the kids. And
Yeah.
especially if you're a single dad, you know, like where it's just like, okay, now the kids are coming here and they're all my responsibility. And you know, I've been gone for 2 months.
I thought that was interesting that you said, you know, you jokingly said that you live in their house, but whenever you're gone for so long and then you come back, you know, you kind of are stepping into their world, right?
Especially that Maya, my 18-year-old, basically lives here while I'm not here because her school is really close. And let's face it, it's a lot cooler living alone in a big house without your parents, right?
Sure.
So when I get back, I'm like, I got a call with like a couple days before, and I'm like, okay, you got to clean up now because I really don't want to freak out, you know, coming back to your shit, right? So she kind of does something, you know, she makes it work. And then I get back to her craziness, you know, and I do really feel that I'm stepping into her zone.
Yeah.
And then I have to lay down the ground and I'm like, listen, this is my house. Let's try to be cordial to one another. But, you know, like, yeah, jokes aside, it is interesting. Like, my kids don't perceive me as a rock and roll musician. I'm just their dad. That's all it is. And it's 100% healthy. And I'm very fortunate because I've established a very healthy relationship with my ex, who's now my best friend. She was always my best friend, but obviously when you break up, shit happens and, you know, like the relationship deteriorates. It's normal. But we've worked so hard at being co-parents that we've kind of realized with time that, I mean, this is the biggest project of our lives. Our kids are the biggest project of our lives. And we have to get along to make it work, you know?
Yeah.
So,
and number one priority too for both of you, you know, and you know, it's that, and that, man, it's so great for the kids when there is a healthy co-parenting situation, you know,
versus
grown-ups, listen to us.
I know, right?
That's so much better versus the times you hear where people are using the kids as weapons against the other, and that's just horrible.
Yeah.
I think it's sort of a phase, unfortunately, of growing up, and the separation part, it kind of leads to that. You know, the kids are, unfortunately, they're easy targets, you know, like to vent out towards the other parent, but you got to cut that short, you know, that as soon as you can, because they just want to be happy. They just want to be kids, and adult shit has to be dealt amongst adults, you know?
Yeah.
And I was very fortunate because I think at times when I wasn't so mature, my ex reminded me that I had a duty towards the kids, you know, and to get my shit together and to just be the best version of the dad I could be. So, I mean, choosing your partner wisely is good. And I realized it's essential. And I realized that I had chosen a great co-parent. You know, we weren't great as, you know, a couple, but yeah, I mean, she's an amazing mother and an amazing co-parent and amazing friend. So that's why it works now.
Such a win for all of those kids and for you. And again, that's such a good stress relief and all of that. Now, so she's 18 and so tell us your kids' names. Okay.
So Tama is Thomas, is the youngest. Zoe is the middle one. She's 16. Maya is 18. They're all insane. They're crazy kids. I've got two ADHD, like full on, the youngest and the oldest. So, I mean, the amount of energy they release is crazy. And when Maya throws a party here, you know, it's funny. Cameras disappear, gets disabled, and, you know, but
yeah.
I got to tell you this story. This is a good one. So obviously I go on tour. It's a summer tour. Maya knows she has the house for a full month. So she throws parties as she should, right? And the rule is, we spoke about it. I'm like, listen, I'm not going to pretend I expect you to not have friends over, or I know what's going to happen, right? Can we try to keep the house whole? Can we try to keep it, you know? So she's like, yeah, whatever. It's cool. It's cool. So next thing you know, like my scotch bottles are watered down. The beers are, you know, like disappearing. And at some point, like cameras are not working. And I keep cameras here because obviously, you know, like you want to make sure that the house is safe while you're not there.
Of course.
But so at some point, cameras don't work. I'm touring with Sum 41 and The Offspring. Tour is going really good. It's super fun. But shit, I'm kind of stressed out because I don't know what the hell's going on at my place. Next thing you know, my friend calls me up and he's like, dude, have you seen Maya's story? I'm like, well, no, because she blocked me, right? And he's like, I'm gonna send it to you, dude. So she's got some of her friends, my power tools, like super drunk, drilling in the wall of the bathroom. People are throwing up. They're doing vodka pasta on open fire, and she's like filming all these stories. And I'm like about to get on stage. I'm like, holy. What can you do?
What
right?
can you do? Yeah.
So I called my ex and I'm like, France, you got to go check him out. Like, seriously, you got to do something about this, She's like, just let him be.
How'd that show go for you?
It wasn't that great. It wasn't that great. Even I'm just a kid was like,
yeah. Well, even just I'm a kid actually leads me to this. I think a lot of people don't know this about you. And so I was talking with someone yesterday. Who the hell was it? I was talking with someone yesterday about pop punk musicians and about how a lot of pop punk musicians, or a lot of people, when they look at just punk rock in general, but pop punk would be in that category of like, but that there's not that we're not the most talented musicians in the world, that like we're simple and everything. Your band's called Simple Plan, right? But you are a classically trained guitar player, and what a lot of people don't know is like how insanely great you are and how much you actually work at your craft and how much you practice and stuff. And so what cards on the table, we're doing a covers record, and we're covering I'm Just a Kid. And Rob calls and he just goes, we're either going to have Jeff play this acoustic part, or the producer Linus is going to have to do, because I have no idea what the hell is going on. And, it's funny because that's like your first big single ever, and I don't think people realize just the intricacies of the instrumentation that go into these simple pop punk songs, but the musicianship that I think that we have, when you look at drummers like Gary, guitar players such as yourself, there's just this vast amount of talent sort of hidden in these really, really sort of simplified songs.
Well, it's funny you say that. Well, thank you. I mean, it's something that I work hard on for sure. And it's not it used to be insecurity. It used to be sort of like me just, like trying to fit in and trying to be, I wanted to make sure that my bandmates needed me. That my role was definitely cemented within the band, and that I was required, to be part of this. Now it's a little different. I just feel like I love music. I love all sorts of music, and I just want to cultivate, that side of my personality. But it's interesting you say that, because I value different things as I age, and a good drummer that knows what to play, when to play it, to me is more valuable than the biggest chops in the world, And I value chops. I think it's cool, but playing a rock song and knowing where to put the right fill at the right spot, when to change the beat to accentuate certain lyrics, it matters. And that's musicianship, Yeah. And when I hear you guys, there's a lot of musicality, like the way you guys, like use dynamics, the way, the harmonies come in. It's very musical, and arranging songs is hyper important. And that's my role in the band. I arrange the guitar parts, So I make sure they're fun. They're a little more intriguing than what you would expect. But it's sort of funny because now you got all these young bands that are like, they have like such shreddy guys, playing. I think that's cool too. Sometimes it's overdone. I think it's not done in the most musical way. Definitely. But yeah, I mean,
back to drummers though. I mean, I agree with you. I think everybody's favorite pop punk drummer to me is amazing, but I think there's just so much overplaying that goes into a lot of the stuff that individual does, and that a lot of people do. There's a reason why really, really good drum teachers start kids on AC/DC. It is like that
4 on the floor. Let's go.
that 4 on and just right in the pocket, and just there's a reason that band is so huge. It's not because it's like this crazy like formula. It's simple rock and roll, you know.
They start them there because it's the building blocks, and you got to walk before you run, right?
Yeah,
but
totally.
like if you learn those fundamentals, you can also live there. I thought it was interesting, Jeff, the take you had about whenever you were younger, you know, playing technical or intricate or you know, difficult parts. I thought it was really interesting saying like you were doing that to make yourself valuable to the band, make them earn your spot, I think you said. Versus I think a lot of younger people when we're younger, we play look at me to sound cool or show off. And I think that's a really interesting way that you're looking at it, like earning your spot and making yourself valuable there.
In your own band, yeah.
Where we all kind of mature and figure out, oh, I don't have to show off all the time, but look at this cool thing, and then get back to just kind of laying it down.
Well, there's also, you know, like in a band, you guys know this, you know, there's a dynamic where at some point, like you start as friends and you're not really like very good musicians yet. You know, we started, I think you guys started very young as well, where it's like, even in the beginning, we didn't really know if Pierre would stay the singer, would he play bass, would I play bass, who would play drums. It was sort of a rotating seat until we kind of specialized. And then there's the songwriting aspect, you know, who brings the most songs to the table.
Yeah.
And then suddenly, you know, like one of the guys develops that skill set better than the others. And Pierre became like a solid songwriter where, you know, like my songs just didn't stand up, you know, to what he was doing. And interestingly enough, I think now, you know, I write a lot of instrumental stuff still to this day, but the music that we make is very tied to the language. Like the lyrics are super important. So English being my second language, I think didn't allow me to write the hooks that Pierre was writing. So coming back to musicianship, well, Pierre was the better songwriter. So I had to be the better guitar player. That's the way I perceived it back then, you know? And it kind of stuck, you know?
Dude, I mean, such an important point, and also especially the lyrics of Simple Plan songs are so important because you guys literally found a niche of kids that needed those songs, and it's all of it makes sense. You know, you're just like, I'm gonna write to these kids who feel lonely, who feel like they're outcasts, who feel like they're alone, who feel like their parents hate them, you know, so whatever. It was, again, early Simple Plan days. That's what the songs were, and it just, man, they could relate to it, and it was so impactful. And now all of these 30 somethings are coming to your shows and singing those songs because that was their childhood, and it's the same with us. Different niche, but so important were the lyrics to Simple Plan songs.
But you know, those lyrics are really basically like, especially in the early days, those were sort of like Chuck coming up with concepts with, you know, very strong lines, and then Pierre running with them, you know. But Chuck was actually that guy. Yeah. You know, like it was really, and I think that's really important. Like when you make a song so much about yourself, a very personal thing, that's when you actually gain a chance of touching a lot of people. But it has to be something sincere, something that you really feel, for it to have the potential to become universal, you know. And I think that's what the Simple Plan songs had. It was really Chuck, like being alone, lonely, feeling alienated, feeling second even next to Pierre. And it's funny because we shot a documentary for the last, I don't know, it's been forever, 2 years now. And we're sort of seeing those themes, those dynamics come out. And I could really tell that Chuck was in a lot of pain, like seeing that Pierre was the more natural front man, the guy that had more charisma, the guy that people just enjoyed being around more. And Pierre and Chuck wrote about that a lot, you know?
Yeah, man, I can't wait to get that insight, because it, you know, that's, is as an outsider, not as an outsider, I guess we're insiders, but as your friends sort of seeing all of that, you know, and then now to hear it, you know, it definitely makes sense. Hey, we got to take a break. When we come back, my favorite Jeff story Man, lots and lots more to talk about on the Rockstar Dad Show with our guest from Simple Plan, Jeff Stinko. You guys hang out, but first, listen to this. Back to the Rockstar Dad Show, and here with Jeff from Simple Plan. And gosh, we haven't even said that this, obviously, we're so glad you're here, but also we're promoting, I think, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think the biggest U.S. Simple Plan tour to date.
It is.
Right?
With the best bands ever. What a lineup.
How crazy is it?
We've been talking about this for a long time.
25, well, yes, that, but 25 years into your band, 30 years into our band, and both of our bands doing the biggest shows we've done in our careers. How insane is that?
And I think it's pretty amazing. Like, I heard you talk about it yesterday. You were saying, like, we haven't opened, since forever.
Yeah.
You guys are a huge band. You do your own thing. You play arenas, in a lot of places. And I think, and we did the same thing as you guys are doing, where it's like, listen, how do we grow this thing? There's so much momentum. It's going so well for us. How do you grow it, right? So we did some stuff with Sum 41. We opened for Avril, for The Offspring. Mm-hmm. At some point, that's what we do. We are feeding the scene, and I think and we're playing the scene as well, And I think it's really important that we're doing this. But it's the fans are the people that are winning. Because those shows are insane. Imagine that couldn't have happened 20 years ago.
No.
So it's so cool it's happening now. And it's, it's fully for the fans. Imagine it's going to be a sick show.
No, I mean, I can't stress enough. I mean, Lolo, who's been hitting it hard for years, been out with Newfound Glory and with Less Than Jake and doing the same festivals as us over in the UK. And then, of course, 303 are our buds from many Warped tours, and that's another band that we've been talking about touring with forever. And now this is crazy, but obviously we've toggled back and forth at festivals and stuff for years. But we're supporting you guys, and I'm excited. Like it's a cool turn of events, and because when we think back to 2003, you guys, come in and we did Texas, we did the UK, and then you guys were so kind to come back and support us in the UK a couple of years ago
Thank you so much for having us.
At the time was our biggest tour. And then we went back in February, did our biggest tour. And now we just finished our biggest tour ever. And for you guys to invite us on your biggest US tour, gosh, just can't thank you enough. That starts in August. It is called Bigger Than It Looks, and tickets are on sale as of now. They're on sale when this comes out. They're on sale, so y'all go get them. When we were in the UK, 2003 February. Now, first of all, let me just say that this is it was such a cool time because you guys came into 2002, and we started and we started a tour. We played around or whatever. My ex-wife, we went in for a baby checkup on the day we were playing Denton, and her blood pressure was so high that they were like, "You got to go in and have this baby tonight." And so while we were on tour with you guys, we had to put the brakes on, reschedule the rest of the shows, and had to go have a baby. And
I remember that now.
Yeah, well, it was the sweetest damn thing. You got Simple Plan sent us this huge gift basket of, just with toys and all of this stuff. And I still have the signed CD that you guys did for her, that for Emma. So you guys will always forever have a connection to this family and to me and my daughter.
That's cool.
And it was such as I said, it's a weird time because we're on tour with you guys, get nominated for a Grammy the day that she's born. She's born. And then all of a sudden we're in the UK, our first big UK tour, and you guys are there. So such a big part of our lives. But I think we were in Liverpool. You know where this is going?
Oh, I know where this is going.
And so we're in Liverpool. Now, we had done our fair share of hijinks up until this point.
Oh, yeah.
But never a sanctioned bit of hijinks. Usually it's just like, do it and then just be like, I'm sorry. Well, It ends up being a big party in the dressing room, and shit is going crazy. It goes from dropping full things of chocolate milk off of a balcony and watching them explode. And this is pre-iPhone, so it sucks because we don't, I don't know. I think there is footage of it.
We had cameras, they were just shitty cameras, so it's all fuzzy and
Well, I'll tell you where we were in technology, Gary. That's when we very first saw iPods, because Patrick with Simple Plan was carrying an iPod around, and we were like, "What the fuck is this thing?"
Yeah, but I think some of us had like flip cameras or something. But yeah.
No, we had like so
we had Blair Witch cameras. Everybody,
yeah. But so it starts out with, and then chocolate milk starts going over the wall, and then a table breaks. So promoter and our manager come into the room as Chris Burney is starting to throw the refrigerator over the balcony, right? And Jeff, who doesn't drink, right? You still not drink?
No, I do, but never as much as you guys, for sure.
Right. But I think at the time you didn't, or maybe you just weren't, or whatever.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. But we're all like, woo, like just and anyway. So they're like, if you throw that over, they're gonna charge you. And Jeff just goes, "Tell me how much. I'll write a check right now."
And dude, I was so broke back then. I had no clue that a fridge could cost 500 pounds.
And over the fucking balcony it went, man. And well, I think they charged you for the cleanup too, man. And
it was brutal.
It's not like that fridge worked. We call those the beer warmers,
It's so
It
true.
was such a shit fridge. No cameras. And they charged me like 3 fridges for it. It was so bad.
So bad, but just still we tell that story a lot about that just as the refrigerators, and they're just going, "You're gonna have to pay for it." And you're like, "I'll write a check right now." And it's just so funny.
Thank God that our career kept going after that, because man, that hurt on that month.
My goodness, man. What a night, man.
Chris was a wild man. Holy shit.
Yeah,
there's quite a few other stories from that night.
Yeah, you would fuel him up. I mean, honestly, just for most of our career, when he was in the mood to do some shit, he would do some shit. He'd break pictures over his head, and but yeah, he liked to have fun, that's for sure. Are you referring to the spit fight, Gary?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That night I was referring to, that's also the night that he ended up in his bunk with, there's lots of incidences.
There's a lot of bodily fluids. And
I just couldn't believe it. Like, we were hanging out on your bus, and the shit I saw, like, you guys, that was baptism by fire. I just couldn't believe it. And you guys drank your rider of beer, and then you drank ours. I just couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
How much beer could you guys sustain?
Yeah. Well, it's not as much anymore, but still, it's up there. I will say that we've calmed down a little bit.
Good.
You're also, not only are you a rock star dad, a legitimate rock star, but also an entrepreneur. I know for a while now, are you a chef as well?
No, I mean, I love cooking. It's sort of my passion. So basically I started restaurants as a passion project. And it's not, I had to get out of the restaurant business right after the pandemic. First of all, the business sucked. And beyond that, the truth is, like, the band just started being really, really busy, and owning a restaurant is a labor of love. You have to be there. You have to be very, very present. And everybody says, it's the best way to lose money and all. It's not that. You will lose money if you're not present, but it's a great job for a chef. Owning a restaurant as a chef is wonderful because you could control costs. You could be there. You see everything that's going on. Or you're the host and you see everything. But me as an investor, it just wasn't the best model, And then Simple Plan, like, right after the pandemic, we hit it really, really hard. Like, just, like, the last 19 months of touring that we did, we played 250 shows. We're mid-40s, like, still playing that much. At some point, you have to make decisions. you have to leave space for the kids. You have to be present, and but I do real estate. I still, it's definitely something I'm really, really interested in. But this year, I've been doing a lot of thinking, and I want to focus on just the band, and I think it's plenty. I think, like, and you guys know, like, it's almost like a full-time job just to promote the band, just to be on social media, and you have to play the shows, you have to travel. So at some point, you have to make decisions. And I think we are all very fortunate to be making music for a living. Let's just have the best time ever doing that.
Yeah.
Hey, Jeff,
And all the rest shouldn't be a distraction.
Let me ask you this. We've talked to a lot of dudes in other bands, and you guys, I remember talking to y'all right after the pandemic, and y'all hit it hard. Y'all went. Almost everyone else we talked to, they all kind of spent some time at home. It was scary at first. They got into a groove. They realized they kind of liked spending some time at home with their kids. And almost everyone else came out of that with, you know what? We don't have to be gone all the time. And they kind of created a model to where they're gone 2 or 3 weeks and they come home. 2 or 3 weeks and then they come home. And you guys came out just guns a-blazing and y'all hit the road. I'm sure that was a discussion y'all had and a motivation and a point. But how did y'all as a group go, hey, let's just go do this?
Well, right before the pandemic, we were already feeling that there was a momentum building. And we had all spoken about the idea that we don't want to manage like a downfall, like what's the point? And I'm sure you guys have the same discussions, like what's the point? Like when do you say it's over? Like when do you say, like, how small should the crowds be before you stop playing? And we didn't really have like an actual like model for it, but right before the pandemic, we kind of saw that the opposite of what we expected was happening. And someone had told us that very young in our career. One of our agents told us, guys, stick your head out of the water long enough and you will see there will be a crazy natural growth coming from nostalgia that you won't expect. It'll be so huge. The bands from the 80s had it. The bands from the 90s overdosed, or they're not there anymore. It's gonna be for the bands, the 2000 bands, to live in. And it was true. So the momentum was good. We got cut off. And like you're talking about, yes, we enjoyed being with our families. We enjoyed slowing down, but we missed playing shows, all of us. And we spoke about it a lot. Not only that, we had a record done right before the pandemic, and we just couldn't release it. So it was just very frustrating. So after the pandemic, we're like, hell no. Now we're going to throw our asses off. We're going to build on our momentum. We had the I'm Just a Kid challenge, on TikTok. We were just like, man, like, this is all we've ever wanted. Let's build upon that. And that's what we did. And truthfully, like, it's been insane. It's been crazy. The band is bigger now than it was, in the early 2000s. So it's just great. So now it is all about trying to balance everything. And I don't know, we're trying our best. We're not very good at it, but we're trying.
You guys are killing it, but you're so, I mean, again, another similarity with us. I mean, isn't it crazy that, the two of our bands were sort of the darlings of pop radio as well. So that's why, for the listener, radio shows would be like Bowling for Soup, Simple Plan, and then a bunch of urban artists and stuff, with Mario and
we had Puff Daddy on certain of those shows,
Kingy, and you know what I mean? And so it would be like, so we would be the only two that had gear, and it was awesome, so we go out there and you do your 25-minute set, you're off work or whatever. But both of us on the radio for years and years and years, both of us bigger now than we ever were during what people call our heyday. It's wild, right? I mean, it's crazy. But it's such a cool thing that's happening. I think the difference, I think you're so right with resurgences. There was this huge classic rock thing, and then obviously 80s metal and even 80s new wave and then obviously punk rock and 90s I really like your analogy because you're so right. It's just sort of like, but I mean, Creed is back. But with us, so many of us have longevity. It was like all of us, y'all, Newfound Glory, Bowling for Soup, Story of the Year, Yellow Card, all Less Than Jake. Everybody just celebrated 20 years of a record, and all still touring and out there doing it. And I mean, I think we're just in a really, really special genre.
And I think, like, because it was always about the songs. It was
Yeah.
not necessarily about what you were wearing, the makeup. I mean, the emo face kind of had an eyeliner for a little bit, but it was never like the main concern. It wasn't. Some of the 80s stuff is so like cringy when you look at it, like, the spandex and all that stuff. But what you remember are the better songs.
Mhm.
And in our genre, it's called pop punk for a reason. The
Yeah.
pop element is the quality of the melodies, the quality of the lyrics, and that's what, like, stayed. That's what, like, survived the test of time. What's interesting too, and it's funny, you made me think about that as you were talking. The reason why we went hard at it right after the pandemic was also because, like, as a band, suddenly your kids look at you and you're home all the time, and you're like, well, they look at you as a retired person.
Yeah.
You don't have a job. And we were like, yeah, we're too young for that. We don't want to be like has-beens to our kids. And we just felt like, I mean, we have a legacy to sort of like keep going, keep alive. And we felt that I wanted my kids to look at me and be like, okay, he's still doing something he loves. And hopefully inspire them to find something that they love and they want to keep doing every day, that they wake up to and they are happy to wake up to do,
Yeah.
So that was a big inspiration as well to hit it hard.
Man, managing the downfall. What a great quote. I mean, and you're so right. It is a conversation that we started having, unfortunately, at a bad time for some of us personally. A good time for some of us. I mean, it was about 2013, and Gary was becoming a father, and Eric had gotten a divorce. I was getting a divorce, and it was sort of like, okay. And crowds, to be honest, like, they never took a dive, but we just started to sense like, okay, we might have peaked, guys.
Well, let's be honest, divorces are very expensive. So
Yeah.
suddenly you're like, oh, okay, I got to bring some in.
Well, it was like, but that my deal is I didn't want to divide that time with my kid. We were 50-50. So I didn't want to be gone, because if you miss your week on a 50-50 thing, then you don't get it back. You just wait till the next one. So I didn't want to wait a month to see my kids. And so whatever it was at the time, it was like almost us breaking up. We did a farewell tour in the UK, which, and that, and then, man,
I didn't know about that.
Yeah, just before the I think, really, I felt like then we kind of limped back in, but around 2016, we started to fire it up again. And then, I'll tell you, Rob coming into the band and being so young and hungry in 17 and just, being so excited remade us excited about things, like even seeing shit,
that energy and excitement, it's contagious, and it fired us up as well.
Yeah. I mean, and then of course, pandemic making you stay home whenever you got to go out again, we're all just ready to go. So yeah, I mean, I feel more fired up at 52, almost 53 than I did at 40 for sure. I'm ready to go. Let's fucking go.
Well, the reality too is at somewhere like around 2008, like, it was all boy bands, and it was all like, like, there was no guitars on the radio at all.
No.
So suddenly we all had to sort of accept the fact that radio was not going to be the way to get our bands heard, or to grow our bands. It was not accessible to us anymore.
Yeah.
So that changed a lot too.
What's crazy is you're exactly right. We were sort of the last guitar bands.
Yeah.
Us, you guys, All American Rejects, Good Charlotte. We were the last guitar bands on pop radio.
Sure.
And, really that was it, and it's funny. I just saw a thing about Machine Gun Kelly making guitar cool again. And
it's true.
It is so true. And people were
Taylor Swift as well.
People want to disagree with it. And it's like, look, he's not making guitar cool for you guys that listen to Slayer. He's making guitar cool to kids who hadn't even thought about picking up an instrument and are, because they're hearing that, on the radio, hearing that, what is this, and man, you're so right. But the thing about this that maybe the listener doesn't know is once our bands had crossed over to pop, once we were on pop radio, there's no going back. So rock stations were never going to play us again. Right.
Yeah.
So once pop radio was like, okay, no more guitar bands, radio was done. Like we literally y'all separately all had to have that conversation where it's like, man, we're not spending any more money on radio. That's crazy because they're not going to play us.
And the reality is, radio was so powerful. It basically filled our shows. Our shows were huge because people heard us on the radio, so they came to the shows. So what next?
Yeah.
And I think we were both you guys had not documentary. You had I don't know how we named them, but you had videos, you had content. Even before social media, we did too.
Yeah.
And so the transition wasn't that hard.
Mm-hmm.
It was pretty natural to just keep doing it. If anything, all those platforms just accelerated the way that we could, spread that content. It made it easier for us to spread that content. And once we all embraced it, well, I think it changed our careers.
Yeah. Yeah, man, totally agree. Jeff, man, we could talk to you all day, but you've been so gracious with your time today. We're so excited about the Bigger Than It Looks tour. Tickets on sale now. We are, it is going to be.
Gentlemen, I got to tell you, Rob and I have been preparing the wine and cheese nights.
Okay.
I've heard about it.
We are
I'm
doing the
excited.
free cocktails with Gary.
Okay.
We're doing it all this summer. It's gonna be something else.
Can't wait. We'll join we all try and work out now, so we'll join you guys for some working out and
Trailer gym for sure.
Yeah. And Jeff, man, seriously, you're a rock star dad. We had so much to talk about. We didn't talk a lot about kids, but we will do that next time we have you on. And dude, we'll see you very, very soon at the first Warped Tour.
This is a song for my friends Jaret and Gary. They started a podcast and said a theme was necessary. They're just a couple of guys in a band that you know, some rockstar dads who started a show. Until the next episode.